Hallelujah. Let the Lord Jesus shine forth. Good evening, good afternoon, and I am already hearing echo from Jay. We haven't even started yet, Jay. Don't move around, please. I know God loves you. I know Lord Jesus gave his life for you, but don't move around. Uh, Peace of Christ be with you, Jay. How are you?
I'm okay, but you got to stop punching me. Before we got on air, about 2 minutes ago, she was actually throwing her fist at me across the thousands of mile, and now she's sitting there and berating me for the noise I'm making.
So I think if the cable moves, it makes sound. That was that sound. But apparently people are not complaining. Therefore, you are in safe hands. So tonight we are just gonna make short response to the video which Islamic Dawah team put it up on the preservation of the Quran. Actually, it was the response to Sheikh Yasir Kadi, but we will pick up a couple of part of that video and then we will go through that with Dr. J. Smith. Before that, Jay, how is life with you? I haven't seen you since Saturday. Anything
Well,
changed?
we had a great time on Saturday, didn't we? And while we were all live with Al Fadi, I understand that Mohammed Hijab cut out all 29 minutes of the material that we were actually dealing with while we were live. If you go up there today, go up on his site and look at 1 hour and 16 minutes. It's supposed to be 1 hour and 45 minutes. He's cut out 29 minutes, the very 29 minutes that we were discussing and that we've been discussing since last week. You can't do that in YouTube. You're going to be called out. So what I did, and this is what I want all of you to do, I went up on his site and I wrote, "What happened to the 29 minutes? Where is it?" That's no longer there. They've even taken that out.
So I'm grateful that you've been having some fun since Saturday. But beside that, how is life from your end? Is there still lockdown regarding the coronavirus, or life is
No,
back to normal?
we're back pretty much not completely back to normal, but we're living in the rural areas here. We don't live in the cities, and so because of the fact that we're not in the cities, we have now a green. Everything's gone green, so we're now able to go to restaurants. We're able to move around. We've always been able to drive, and that's not been a problem. But no, there's a lot more freedoms now.
I think one of the things I already noticed is you got haircut now.
Yes, I got a haircut. I had a
That
locked on hair that was all over the place.
that's shame. But
Someone saying my beard's perfect for me. Yes, God bless you. I keep it. It's been like this for years. Just getting grayer.
okay, let me ask you a quick question. I've been trying to figure out from other brothers and sisters as well. If you were have to have a dinner with three biblical characters besides Jesus, who would you have dinner with and why?
Paul, Paul, and Paul. I would love to
You
sit
can't
down
have
and
like
talk to
three
Paul.
Pauls, so you need to
I'm
pick
sorry.
like others.
Okay, Paul, John, and Mark. But I would love especially to have with Paul. I think, or let's just, if you want to give me some Old Testament character, I wouldn't mind sitting down with Moses, and I wouldn't mind sitting down with Abraham. But Paul is the one I would like to talk with the most. I think we would spend all our time chatting because I love what he did. I love how he worked. I love the kind of manners he used. I love the fact that he always went into the synagogues and he confronted the Jews with what they had done to the Messiah. And the fact that he wrote such amazing letters to all the different churches in the book of Romans, amazing, just because that's the theology that we now use that expands on what Jesus taught. But yeah, those are the three characters I probably want to sit down with.
Okay. Um, Thank you. I'm not gonna ask what would you like to eat because I guess conversation will be more important. So, um, what I did ask your help regarding to just go through a short video which I put it up on the channel regarding how Muslim community kind of messed up when it comes to preservation of the Quran. And yeah, that's the sound. That's the sound is coming because you just moved.
Do you want me to take these out? Maybe that would
No,
be better.
no, it's just like I think the cable kind of touches, but I think people are okay anyway. Um, so Yasir Kadi made a video regarding the like there was a kind of dialogue between Yasir Kadi and Islamic Dawah team. He was asked if he's given a blank paper, would he able to put together the current Quran? His short answer was no, and his long answer was no. But after that, I think Muslims decided, oh, there is a problem, what has been happened in that video. And a Muslim man, part of Islamic Dawah team from Speaker's Corner, Adnan Rashid, put up 2 hours 26 minutes video where he expressed this is gonna be once for all, but kind of he just messed up. So what I thought we do is we just spend an hour, simply go through his video and see what are the areas he intentionally misrepresented, if there is any areas that he misrepresented unintentionally, and we will again be good Christian and correct them. That's the plan. You are okay with the plan?
Yep.
Okay, that's only plan anyway. So, so just be remember, what I'm showing here, you will be seeing them on YouTube 20 seconds after it happens. You should be able to listen, you should be able to hear as the conversation takes place. So as that happens, dear beloved ones in the chat, please keep your questions coming and put at the CCI Ministries in front of your questions or your comments. That will get my attention, and hopefully after every segment we will able to kind of take your comments and take your questions. So if you are ready, Jay, we are ready to go. Sure? That's last chance.
Go ahead. Bring it on.
And he started defending Islam, bro. And that shows that this missionary attack on Islam is nothing new. It's been there for
It's ancient. It started from the very early period of Islam. Okay,
Yeah.
Christian missionaries, clergy, they started to lie on Islam, literally lie. It starts with John of Damascus. Okay, John of Damascus was one of the later church fathers who wrote in Greek. Okay, he was from Damascus. He was alive during the Umayyad period, and it starts with him. And the tradition continues to this way. I will make a very responsible statement now. Most Christian missionaries commenting on Islam, most of them, not all, most of them are malicious liars, are a bunch of liars. I'm usually very careful with my statements, and I'm making this statement with confidence. They are a bunch of liars. They deliberately ignore physical evidence, empirical evidence, which is in their faces, yep, to confuse their own masses, to take them away from Islam.
Yep.
They basically want to confuse the Christians into thinking Quran is not preserved, Islam is messed up, Prophet Muhammad is immoral, They will keep lying. They will keep lying. They will lie to an extent that they will lose any sense of shame. Not that they ever had it in the first place, right? But they are most of them, they are outright liars. They are liars. Okay, they're not confused. They're not ignorant. They know the truth. They know they are lying. This is why they are malicious liars. Without saying names, without mentioning names. That's why we choose not to engage with most of them. Because they, how will you debate a liar? How will you debate a liar? When you put physical evidence in front of their face, they will say, "Oh, I don't accept it. It doesn't exist." Okay. If you tell someone there's the sun, can you see the sun? He will say, "I cannot see the sun." He will do this, literally. Okay, the sun is there, and we're gonna be grabbing his head. We're gonna be grabbing his head and pointing to the sun. Look, the sun is there. Look, the sun is there. He's gonna be doing. I cannot see the sun. Where's the sun? I cannot. This is how Christian missionaries are.
They shouldn't be.
Literally, this is exactly how they are.
There shouldn't be a resource. There shouldn't be a resource for Muslims or non-Muslims, right? Without, just to name. I don't want to name drop, but there's some individuals that are online and that are deliberately jumping on any opportunity they get, bro. Literally any opportunity. They're clutching at straws just to make a case against Islam, bro. They're the last people you want to go to as.
You know why they have to do it? Because their own scripture is entirely corrupt. Okay, when I say entirely corrupt, from page 1 to the page last, they don't have what the authors actually wrote. Here we have the Quran from the 1st century, okay, where we read word by word exactly what the Prophet taught his companions and what they transmitted to us in our modern copies. It has reached us in our modern copies. And then on top of that, Western scholars, Western non-Muslim scholars are saying Muslims have exactly the same Quran Muhammad taught to his companions, and then they delivered it to posterity. What more do you need? Physical copies, then a tradition to back it, how to read it, and then modern Christian, non-Christian, non-Muslim scholars confirming its veracity. Then anyone who questions it after that is either confused or a liar. So let's go to the clip of Dr. Yasir Qadhi.
This is why people like David would need to fix up, bro, honestly. And I just had to say that some people are just clowns, bro. Honestly, literally clowns.
We don't engage with people like that because
Okay, so that was the kind of first part. I just thought before we start we get to hear the emotions of Muslim missionaries. So that happens when they don't know how to deal with the arguments, and I am amazed like how much like they just bothered by David Wood, and of course there are other names they didn't give. One of them is very clear is Sam Shamoun, other one is very clear Jay Smith and Christian Prince. But Jay, when you read the sources, like you didn't give your name, but like that was very clear. You were in that Islamophobia.
Let me just say something real quickly in my defense. Adnan Rashid and I are actually good friends. We get along fine. I have debated him maybe 4 times. And how many times did he come to Speaker's Corner and he would just come and put his ladder next to me without any permission and just start haranguing me, even though the topic that we're talking about is nothing that he wanted to talk about. He just would take over, and he's a bully. He's got a loud voice. He now knows that I've got a louder voice. I've got the louder, you know me, Hatun. I have the loudest voice down there. And what has happened is over the years, he only has one recourse through these kind of people like us who are willing to go on the offense. This is called polemics. And he just calls us liars, 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 liars. What I would like to do today is find out what is it that we've lied about. Why is it he just calls us liars? I'd like to support, and we'll go back and let's see what is it he thinks we've lied about. And I think I know what he's going to go with this. So let's go ahead and let's see what it is.
Before that, I don't think, just add what you said, Jay, I don't think it is Islamophobia or lying, and I don't think there is anything wrong being Islamophobia. Islam is an ideology and dangerous ideology. There is nothing wrong to express that. But reading Islamic sources and asking simple questions from Islamic sources, if that makes you to not kind of able to defend your faith, I can't do much about that. Just quick couple of things after all those personal attacks. You saw some side comments regarding Bible is corrupted from Revelation to Genesis. Muslim knows that better than us. Allah is fall in love with Christian scripture. Allah is have a lot of respect to Christian scripture. Muhammad had a lot of respect to Christian scripture. Today, when anyone says anything beside that regarding Bible is not reliable or corrupted, such those statements, please beware. They know much better than Allah. They know much better than Muhammad, and they should be God of and Prophet of Islam today. We do have more than enough biblical manuscripts which we can go back. We've got Church Fathers translations. We've got biblical translations. We've got Church Fathers quotations, and it is more than enough to tell me the heart of God. Muslims know that much better than us, and David Wood and Sam Shamoun spent a couple of live streams to just debunk unnecessary and just stupid claims was made by Dawah team regarding the corruption of the Christian scripture. The reason they believe Christian scripture is corrupted because Allah made a historical mistake in the Quran regarding the death of Lord Jesus Christ. So that's the first point. Now, ready for the proper conversation? I just wanted them to kind of express their feelings so we get on with it.
They are outright liars. I'm not talking about Dr. Yasir Qadhi, by the way. I'm talking. He mentioned, and Brother Imran mentioned the name. So in case people think that the picture came up and I'm talking about him,
that was no time.
Dr. Yasir Qadhi, I think he should have been more clear on this issue. He confused a lot of people with some vague statements he made. Either he should not have indulged in this topic in this particular interview. If he chose to indulge, then he should have gone into more details, clarifying the muhkamat. The muhkamat means established matters, what we talked about in this particular live stream. We talked about established matters in this live stream, right? We talked about them. What is established? This is what's established. So if you were to ask me, if you gave me a blank codex, a blank copy, for example, a blank notebook.
Yeah.
If you gave me a blank notebook and asked me to write the Quran in it, what would I write in it? If you ask me that question, I would tell you, I would write this. Bring it back on the screen.
What, the video?
No,
Oh,
the page. The page.
Second. 1 second, bro. Let me just pop it up. Here we go.
If you ask me this question today, what would you write on a blank notebook if we were asked to write the Quran on that blank notebook?
What's from Allah?
I would write exactly this.
Yeah,
I would write this.
This is what was given. This was what
and why I would write that? Because this is exactly what's here, from page 1 to the page last. So if you go to IslamicAwareness.org, there is a list of Qurans from the 1st century. We have the entirety of the Quran, from the 1st century. The entire Quran, we have it from the 1st century.
Okay, I will pause here, and because he made lots of nice claims. So, Jay, the video he shared on, the picture he shared on the screen is a picture of Birmingham manuscripts. Do you remember these 2 folios came out when you were in France? Suddenly, whole Muslim world kind of went, oh, they've got the Quran of Muhammad, because carbon dating is dated 2 years before the birth of Muhammad and 5 years before Uthman ordered Quranic manuscripts to be burned. So first, let's start from that. Muslim missionary, part of Islamic Dawah team, he will write down the Birmingham manuscripts in a piece of paper as the part of the Quran.
No, he didn't say part of the Quran. He said the whole Quran by the person. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Now, let me just say, is that the whole Quran? I want you to put up the PowerPoint and show you what we're talking about. So that's, now, he says we're lying. Let's see what he has just done.
Okay, so let me
Can you put up slide number 2?
Slide number.
And then slide number 3.
Okay, this is the slide number 2.
Okay,
on the
slide number 2, take a look at that. Slide number 2 talks, and this is in July 22nd. Look at the date, July 22nd. This was all over BBC. I remember hearing about it. I remember, Hatun, you remember it. This is the oldest Quran in the world. And Dr. David Thomas says the writer of the manuscript could well have known the Prophet Muhammad. He would have seen him probably. He would have maybe have heard him preach. He may have known of him personally. And that really is quite a thought to conjure up. This was all over the internet, and the Muslims were ballyhooing all over the place. And we went down to Speaker's Corner, Adnan, and all of them were so excited. We finally got the whole Quran from the time of the Prophet. Why? Because the dates on the carbon dating, radiocarbon dating, were from 568 to 645. Muhammad was born in 570. He died in 632. So this covers the life of Muhammad. In fact, it covers more than the life of Muhammad. It comes 2 years before Muhammad was born, and it covers for the other end of it about 13 years after Muhammad, 12 years after Muhammad died. Do you see the problem right there?
Let me ask you just basic knowledge questions. Sometimes, like I am a woman, I'm deficient, I can misread what you are saying. So Muhammad born in 570. This carbon dating of the Quran, which is the dating of the animal skin when animal died, is 2 years before the birth of Muhammad and approximate 42 years before Allah gave him the revelation. So we have the Quranic chapters, which is way before Allah started communicating with Muhammad.
Bingo. Okay, that's the earliest date. The last date is 645. Muhammad died in 632. When was the Quran finally written down? 652.
That's the second completion of the Quran, yes, under the Uthman.
Uthman. So that's the canonical text that we're using today, according to every Muslim, right? So already you have two problems. It could be that this Quran is actually 2 years before Muhammad was even born, which means before Islam and also before the Quran and also before Uthman. Or if you want to go to the last date, 645, that's 7 years before the Quran was finally even written. But is this the whole Quran? Go to the next slide, slide number 3. Take a look at that slide.
So before we move to the next slide, can I ask just basic knowledge question? If so, it's been expressed on BBC that person who wrote the Quran probably met with Muhammad, even heard from Muhammad. Will I be correct to say actually probably since this is the animal skin, probably this will be the one of the sheep which was dinner in the table on the time of Muhammad, or this might be even the sheep which eat the certain Quranic verses. So they decided to honor the sheep, and then they wrote down the Quran on it.
You need to be a novelist. You could be a great writer. The way that you have the ideas you come up with, Hatun, I've never heard before. I
I'm
never even
thinking.
thought of putting that together. Nonetheless, it was a sheep. You're right. And
Okay.
I want to show you how much of the sheep we're talking about, how much of the Quran we're talking about.
Yeah.
Go to the next slide and let's show them
I am on
what
the
we're
next
talking
slide.
about.
Yeah, I'm on the next slide.
Okay, take a look at that. It is only 2 pieces of paper, front and back. 2 pieces of paper, front and back. Now, how many verses are on those 2 front pieces of paper, front and back? 33 ayahs, only 33 verses. Now, Hatun, how many verses are there in the Quran?
In the current Quran, 6,236. That means this is only 33 out of 6,236 Quranic verses.
Now, can you see? This is not an entire Quran, right?
No, it's only like 33 verses, which...
Let's look at each one of those surahs. Take a look at each one of those surahs that they do contain. They contain Surah 18, verse 17 to 31. There's 110 ayahs in just that one Surah 18. How about Surah 19? This contains Surah 19, ayah 91 to 98, just 7 verses. There are 98 verses in that surah. If you want to go to Surah 20, it has 135 verses. This only contains 40 verses. So it's not even the complete surahs. It's a very minuscule part of Surah 18 and Surah 19 and Surah 20. So where does Adnan come off and say the complete Quran at the time that Muhammad was living? How can he say that? He's going to contradict himself in about 5 minutes. You're going to see this. We'll get to that.
Maybe he's just thinking Quran is actually only 33 verses. That's what he memorized. So he will able to put them down. And of course, he's going to ignore the variations and then he's going to follow the Hafs Quran because he already memorized the Hafs Quran, or he pretends that he memorized it.
Okay, we're going to get to that. But let me ask you something, Hatu. You already mentioned now twice. The dates that you're looking at with radiocarbon dating are very inexact. Am I correct?
Yes.
They only date the beginning of the breakdown of the carbon 14 to become nitrogen 14. And it takes the half-life of the breakdown between carbon 14 and nitrogen 14 is about 5,000 years. That's the half-life. So it's a very slow breakdown. That's why they have to say 568 to 645. It could be anywhere amongst those. The Muslims will come back and say, no, they said 95%. Let's just go with 95% for 645. They want to go with the latest date. This is when the animal died. Am I correct? This is not even when the parchments were made. Nonetheless, is that when the writing was written?
No, so we don't know the writings because they need to use the ink to date the writings, and it's like too small for them to date. But the writings...
No, that's not the reason. Why don't they date the ink?
They can't do that so far.
You cannot do that for one simple reason. Inks are pigments that are put a melange of many, many pigments that come from many, many areas and many, many ages. Therefore, it's impossible to date ink because there's so many variables. There's thousands of variables in every piece of ink. The only thing they can date are the parchments. They can only date the skin because that doesn't come from anywhere else but that animal. In this case, 2 of those 2 folios, we're talking about just 2 pages, are dated at the radiocarbon dating. Now let's go on and let's see what the other scholars are saying. Let's go down and for lack of time, because I don't want to take up too much time on this, I want you to go to slide number 7.
Yeah.
Look at slide number 7, and here's where the problems are. Why is it that scholars all over the world haven't jumped on board with these findings? Remember, this happened in 2015.
So
So we're talking about 5 years ago.
Sorry, just a moment, Jay. Are you trying to tell me there are scholars in the world who are simply saying this cannot be the Quran from the time of Muhammad?
Exactly. And I want to show you who they are. Look at these scholars.
I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So these are Western scholars, and these are the ones who are objecting to that date. And look what they're saying. First of all, remember, this is only the animal skin. This is not the ink. So don't get too excited about it, Adnan. Don't get so excited. You don't even know when it was written. Nonetheless, take a look at Efin Rezvan, Russian scholar from Birmingham University, who went to Birmingham University. He went there right after this was discovered. He was asked to lecture on this. And this is what he said. The Birmingham fragments show textual variants as well as verse numbering differences. So even that's a problem. We're not going to get into that. The very, very early dating of these fragments before the reign of Uthman cast doubts on both the Islamic traditions, and the fact that the folios were kept for centuries dans un coffre de fer qu'il cacha dans un souterrain, which means in an iron box underground, which means that would also have a problem with the dating and can partly explain the earlier radiocarbon dating. So he's already doubting it. This is just a few weeks after this was all over the news. He was asked to speak about it there at Birmingham because he's a scholar. What did he go on to say? The parchment was an expensive material. The skin of the entire animal was used to produce the folios. Monastic and state scriptoria located in the territory of Greater Syria, that's Al-Shams, that would be Syria today, Antiochia and Al-Hira, and Alexandria areas, could store this valuable material, including the donations of the pious laity. These stocks became part of the loot captured by the Arabs in the first years of the conquest. Captured leaves were then used for writing the Quran. So what he's saying is, we have no idea when anybody actually wrote on these. Therefore, he's suspicious that these cannot be dated just because the animal skin is dated that early. These were part of other stocks. These were not made by Arabs. Those skins were made by those that had been captured by the Arabs in the conquest, brought then to places like Baghdad, Ctesiphon, and then that were written on at a much later date. That's his opinion. Let's look at someone else's opinion. Emilio Platti. I'm going to give you the translation of referring to the Mingana 1572. Now, this was in 2017, so this is 2 years later. He's now referring back to it's called the Mingana 1572a. This corresponds perfectly to the text of the Uthmanic Vulgate, pointing out differences with the Sana'a Codex, unquestionably the oldest manuscript. The Sana'a Codex is unquestionably the oldest manuscript, which therefore means that this Birmingham fragment is subsequent to the oldest manuscript. What is the date for the Sana'a Codex? Do you remember the date?
Are you talking about the underwriting or top writing?
The upper text.
Upper writing is beginning of 7th century.
No, 8th century, beginning of the 8th century, 705.
Sorry, yes, 700. Sorry, 8th century.
705. So the beginning of the 8th century, it's dated to around 705. The lower text would be earlier than that. That is hugely problematic if you want to get into those two different layers, because the lower text is 60 verses. It has 70 difference with the upper text.
63 verses. Sorry, Jay,
63 verses with 70 variants. So here you have 705, and what Emilio Platti is saying in 2017 that these Birmingham folios have to come subsequent to it because they follow in the same pattern. Let's see what Dr. Alba Fadeli says. She states that the paleography gives a hypothesis. It is not exact, and carbon dating informs us only about the date of the death of the animals. So she's reminding us, be careful what you're saying. Now let's go on and see what Süleyman Berk. These are from your country. These are from Turkey. These are the Turkish. These are Muslim scholars. Let's see what the Muslim scholars say. Assistant Professor Süleyman Berk, faculty member of Yalova University, Islamic Study Faculty, Turkish Islamic Art History Department. And he is saying this in 2015, immediately after this came out. This is what he's saying. He's saying, he along with the collector Mehmet Sebi, challenged the Birmingham University suggestion that it has found the world's oldest Quran. This is what they say. This finding did not cause any excitement in me. It is clear that the Quran pages they have belong to the Umayyad era. When did the Umayyads begin? 660, right? 661 with Muawiyah. That's the beginning of the Umayyad era. So from the Umayyad era, and then he goes on to say, and which is where are we? The Umayyad, which is around the end of the 7th century and the beginning of the 8th century. So it goes from 660 all the way up to 740. So he said it's in that time period between 660 and 740. We have seen many copies of the Quran written with that script in that era. The Turkish Islamic Arts Museum even has the largest collection of such transcripts. There are no scripts definitely used during the time of the Prophet Muhammad and the 4 caliphs. The 4 caliphs go up to 661. It is clear that the Quranic pages at Birmingham University and the ones that we have belong to the same era, which means he's putting it back to the late 7th century, early 8th century, along with Emilio Platti. They are putting it after the Sana manuscript, which is 705. So where in the world? Now, let me just before we go any further, I want you to come back on that. What does that tell you?
So before that, can I just emphasize something? I think it might be helpful for people who are joining us to follow up. I think when it comes to the Quranic manuscripts, it's very much messy. Okay, like I know, Jay, you've been looking at them for a long time. I've got some of them. I kind of use them for the evangelism purposes. I know it can be messy, but the Birmingham manuscripts, we discussed them at Speaker's Corner lots of times. Okay, lots of times. And I remember once when we were up on the ladder, one of the members of Islamic Dawah team turned to you and then said, "Oh, why do you even follow the carbon dating? They are all messy." So therefore, all I can say, of course, I don't know heart of Adnan Rashid, but all I can say is this is intentional misguiding by Muslim missionaries when they simply look into the camera and then say, yup, this is the Quran from the time of Muhammad because of the carbon dating. That is intentional misguiding and it is wrong. And you know much better than me, it is wrong. That's the first point. Second
Are you
point
calling
is,
him a liar?
whatever in British way people will say, in Turkish way we would say you lied. But when you say those things in British, I might be called racist or Islamophobia. Sometimes people don't want to take the truth. So whatever you would say, so that is intentional deceiving. Because
Hold on a minute. I just remember him referring to us as liars 15 times, and you're having a hard time even saying it once.
Because I'm lovely Christian girl. Political correctness, Jay. And especially in England, not everything you say you are becoming racist. But anyway, so that's the first thing. It is coming from someone who already know about the material, who already know about the arguments. Therefore, it is wrong. You are intentionally misguiding people in the sake of Ummah, and it's not going to help you at all because people are waking up. That's the first point. Second point is, while this is only probably 0.005% of the Quran, 33 verses, with the textual variations and with the problems on the verse numbering, I'm very much confused and concerned that you are making such a statement that this is the Quran you will put down in the blank paper. You know much better than me, this is not even Quran. You know much better than me, there are variations in this Quran.
Hatun, can I say something?
Of course,
What
Jay, freedom
exactly?
of speech.
Go back to slide number 3. As she's bringing it up, I want to see what exactly is found in those 33 verses. Because take a look at those 33 verses. There's nothing Islamic about it. There is nothing at all to do with Islam in those 33 verses. In fact, those 33 verses are all found hundreds of years before. They come from stories that are from outside. They do not come from stories about Muhammad or Medina or Mecca or anything to do with the caliphs. Take a look. Surah 18, ayah 17 to 31 is a story about the 7 sleepers of Ephesus. This is from your country. This is from Turkey.
Jay,
This is not even from Arabia.
excuse me, Jay, why are you always blaming my country when Islam messed up?
No, you're not blaming for country. I'm saying this story actually originated it. You actually
Okay.
created this story.
Okay.
Islam borrowed it from you. So give credit where credit is due. That was written in 521 AD. That is 200 years before the Quran. That story. So why don't they say this is from that time period? Look at the second story. Look at the second part. Surah 19 verses 91 to 98. Just 7 verses. That is that is straight out of the Proto-Evangelium of James, which is written in 145 AD. And also from the Pseudo-Gospel of Matthew, which is written in 600 AD. So they borrowed it from 2 different sources that predate Islam and predate the Quran. Look at chapter 20, verse 1 to 40. That's the story of Moses straight out of the Bible. Well, when was that written? Well, that was written in 1400 BC. So everything that you find in these 33 verses predate Islam, predate the Quran, predate Muhammad, predate Uthman, predate everything we know about Islam. If they're going to say that this is proof now that the Quran existed, I would suggest that even if the carbon dating is correct, you're showing us nothing other than other pieces of stories that have been borrowed from other sources that, of course, look at the dates, they're all pre-Islamic. So that to me does not surprise me. But I want to get back to the radiocarbon dating. You want to go with that, or you wanted to say something more?
No, we can move on that, and then I will make kind of comment after that. So, there it is.
I want you to go to slide number 9.
Yes.
Now, this is what, remember, everything so far that Adnan has to go on, everything that all your Dawah team has to go on at Speaker's Corner, everything that we have heard so far from everyone on these 2 folios, they're just 2 folios, back and front of 2 pieces of paper, only 33 verses. Out of 6,236 verses, these are only 33. What are we going to do with carbon dating? And I wish we had animation on this. On my PowerPoint, I have it animated. But nonetheless, this is the carbon dates of the Sana'a manuscript, which is considered to be the oldest manuscript. Let's look and see what we have found with the Quran. Now, this is coming out of Sinai's material. This is also coming out of Mark Dury. Dr. Mark Dury has just come out with this in 2018. He says, if you're going to trust the Oxford lab, you need to go and see what the other labs are finding. Because carbon dating is being done by lots of labs and also on manuscripts, the Quranic manuscript. Now, just take a look at this graph that you see there. This is the carbon dating of the Lyon laboratory, which is in France, the Kiel laboratory, which is in Germany, the Zurich laboratory, which is in Switzerland, and the same Oxford laboratory there in Britain, from which the Birmingham folio was dated. And look at the dates they found. Let's take the first one on the far left. The first one on the far left is the Lyon one. Take a look at the dates they found using carbon dating, radiocarbon dating, for the Sana'a manuscript. It goes from 390 up to 550. 390 up to 550 for the Sana'a manuscript of the Quran. When was Muhammad born? 570. So this predates Muhammad, this predates the Quran, this predates Uthman, this predates everything. And what's more, it goes all the way back to 390. Hold on a minute. I didn't know Islam existed in 390. Did you know Islam existed or the Quran was around that early?
That's the moment we say Allah al-Asghar.
Let's go. We're going to get to that. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. The Kiel laboratory, looking at the same parchment, looking at the same manuscript, they dated it from around 400 up to 450. That's a whole century before Muhammad. So are you going to say that this Quran came from a whole century before Muhammad? Let's look at the next one, which is the Zurich one in green. That one goes from about 470 up to 550. And the one after that is the Oxford one. That goes about from 500 to 550. Not one of them goes beyond 550. Of the 4 laboratories doing radiocarbon datings on another manuscript that is supposedly earlier than the Birmingham folios, if they're going to go with those dates for the Birmingham folios, they've got to go with these dates, which means the Quran existed long before Muhammad. In this case, anywhere from 80 to 220 years before Muhammad. That's way too early. And if you want to talk about Uthman, these are 120 to 260 years before Uthman. Are they willing to go with that? Have you heard any Muslims support this? No Muslim wants to talk about this. They only want to talk about the Birmingham folios. Folks, you can't have it both ways. And this is why the scholars today are saying, be careful, be careful, be careful. Radiocarbon dating are very inexact. And if you're going to go with the Birmingham foliage, you need to go with all the radiocarbon datings, which would put the Quran back over 100 years before Muhammad, over 100, up to this case, up between 100 to 260 years before Uthman, before the Quran was actually finalized.
So, what I am hearing and what you are saying, I think it's the same thing. So if Birmingham manuscripts is what is the Quran all about, it is only 0.005% of the Quran. 33 verse out of 6,236 verses, with the textual variations, with the verse numbering problems, with all mess, like very much mess. And Muslims should know much better than this to know that carbon dating is not when it is written down. You know that much better than me, but I just wanted to be lovely and remind you that in a kind way. So that's
What's the figure you gave again?
0.005. I'm assuming, like, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see then why it's important that we bring this to the fore? Now, does that make us a hater of Islam? Does that make us a hater of Muslims because we brought this up? Even you can't even say that Adnan is lying. You're so
Kind.
troubled by your
I'm
British
so.
background now,
I know.
having lived.
I know. I've
But I
been
think
like.
I think Muslims need to be very careful when they make claims like that. To say categorically that they have the entire Quran, but he goes on, he says more, because I look to see what he says next.
Yeah. So, okay, now we kind of finished with the Birmingham manuscripts. We don't see that as full Quran. I don't think there is any Muslim in the chat would say that's the full Quran. That's first point. I don't think any Muslim would say, yeah, we can take the carbon dating as when it is written. And I don't think any Muslim will kind of join with me to say that all tells us Allahu al-Askar or Hebrew version of Allahu Akbar. You can put that together. So that was the first part. In the second part, he talked about Husseini manuscripts. I made a video about that on Saturday. He talked about Husseini manuscripts, and then he expressed that Husseini manuscripts is the Quran from the 1st century. Did we not listen to that? I thought we listened to that one.
We haven't got to this one yet.
Ah.
He was talking about lying so much. I think we got so excited by his lying that we only got
Okay,
part of
apologize. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's go back to that part and see.
Well, listen, because we're running out of
in
time. We only have
different
15
libraries.
minutes to go. Maybe.
Okay, we even have complete copies. The Husseini Mosque manuscript, which is from the 1st century in Cairo. Okay, Husseini Mosque manuscript is from the 1st century of Islam. It's in Cairo. It is 99% complete. The complete text of the Quran. Only first 2 or 3 pages are missing. Surah Al-Fatiha and maybe one the very early verses of Surah Baqarah are missing. The rest of the Quran is there. Husseini Mosque manuscript. Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, I will add that Allahu al-Askar or Allah Akbar in Hebrew. Sorry, Jay, I thought we listened that part. So, Husseini manuscripts he started with this is the first century completed Quran, and then after that he said 99% of this Quran is complete. What do you say?
Well, goodness sakes, there's so much you can say about this. If you could, can I put up my? Well, let's go ahead. He goes on. If you go up and put up the PowerPoint again, just take a look at what we have on the Husseini manuscript, and let's just take a look at this Husseini manuscript. Look at that slide number 12.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go to one of your Turkish scholars, Dr. Tahir Atakolic, and also Dr. Ekmelin Ihsanoğlu. They are the only ones who really have done a forensic analysis of the Husseini, and they came out with their study in 2007, 2009. This is one of the manuscripts that I introduced in my debate with Shabir Ali back in 2014. And take a look at what they said. This is not Uthmanic. It is dated from the early to mid 8th century. It was stated that the Cairo copy that's the Husseini manuscript, might have been written in the order of Abdul al-Aziz al-Marwan in 704, the governor of Egypt. However, the reason for reaching this conclusion has not been explained. We share the view that this copy is not one of the Musafs attributed to Caliph Uthman. And later on, he goes on and says that this is from the early to mid 8th century. So it's in the 700s. So that right there wipes out what Adnan's saying. This is, first of all, not a complete Quran, but it doesn't even come from the same century that Adnan's claiming it. Let's go back to the next slide, because then the next slide, Franzo de Roche talks about this. Franzo de Roche is one of the leading scholars in the world today on manuscripts and also on variants. And he puts the date for the Husseini manuscript to the 9th century. Why? Because of the kind of script that is used. It's a monumental text. Therefore, it is much bigger. It comes later. It's borrowed. That monumental text was borrowed from the Christians. And you can see pictures of it right there. What is fascinating is what Adnan doesn't, either Adnan doesn't know, or he's not studied, or he's not read the experts of it. This manuscript, of all manuscripts, he should never have claimed is from the time of Uthman, and he should not have claimed that it's 99%. Why? Because this manuscript is riddled with coverings. This is the one manuscript that Dan Brubaker is talking about. He's got it in his book, the 20 corrections. This is one of the examples he gives. And it's the last example he gives in the book on corrections of early Quranic manuscripts. I was just on the phone with Daniel Brubaker just about an hour ago, and he was laughing when he heard what Adnan was saying. Adnan is not keeping up with the latest. You've got to keep up with the latest findings. Take a look at what Hatun now has up on screen. Look at this one page. This is from Daniel Brubaker's book, not his book. Actually, this is my PowerPoint. This is not from his book. Just the picture on the right is. He has that picture in his book. If you have a copy of that book, go to page number. Let me just get the page number here. Page number 85, Hatun. Page number 85. And it's that page you're looking at. Now, take a look at that. That is from the Husseini manuscript, the Musaf al-Sharif, they call it, from Cairo. Surah 2, ayah 191 to 193. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different coverings on one page. And nothing has been written over top. In fact, when you look at that, modern Muslims don't even know what it says because so much has been covered over. All that has been covered over has been censored. That's called censorship. There are so many of these in the Husseini manuscript that there's no way in the world that Adnan can get away with saying this is 99% of the Quran. What's more, he cannot say that it's complete. I'm sorry, that he doesn't say. He says 99%. He cannot say that it's from the 7th century. This is from the 8th century. According to Dorosh, this is from the 9th century. So even by the 9th century, they still haven't completed the Quran. This does not agree with all the different coverings. And I'm just showing you one page here with all the different coverings they have on the Husseini manuscript. You cannot say that it even agrees with the other manuscript, the Topkapi or the Samarkand or the Ma'il manuscript, the Petropolitan manuscript, or the Sana manuscript, the other 5 major manuscripts. It is above and beyond. In fact, that's why most Muslims do not put it forward as one of the best manuscripts, because it has so much censorship. It has so many errors. It has so many differences that have been, and these have all been done after the fact. In other words, they were done at a later date. Yeah. And that's why I had to laugh when I heard him make these claims.
So, I have the, I'm someone who God has been so gracious to me. So I have got the Husseini Musaf here, okay? I'm just like so kind today, I don't know why, but I'm just turning you, Jay, you're welcome. Here's the Musaf here, this is the page Jay is talking about, okay? All those covered. It's all in the Musaf, okay? And it's not only that, from page to page you go, I don't think you are able to see, but page to page you go, you can even see like half of the page is not there. It is identified as the miracle of Islam. That's the first point. Second point is Jay already expressed, this is not the 1st century Hijrah Quran. What is the date for the end of the 1st century Hijrah, Jay?
719. Now he's going to make a claim later on the video. He's going to make another ludicrous claim, absolutely lying through his teeth. He's going to say, we don't have time because I see we only have 10 minutes. I'd really like to get onto this. He's going to make a claim that they can reproduce they can reproduce 100% of the Quran by 719. Hold on a minute. Do you see a problem with that, Hatun?
Yeah. Yes, that's a problem because we don't have the manuscripts to do so.
No, before even that statement right there, we can reproduce the whole Quran by the 1st century Hijrah, which goes from 622 up to 719. What did he just say 5 minutes ago? We have the whole Quran by the time of Prophet's life.
Only
Did he
two,
just say that?
only beginning of the only Surah Fatiha was missing, that 7 verses, and then beginning of Surah 2. But that's not even true because we've got the manuscripts here. We know
Okay.
4 full folios are missing. That's the first point. Second point is, they can't make it. You can't just chop the tummy of the sheep and then put the verses in there. But you can push harder, and make a claim that you can go back to the Quran of Uthman. I am afraid that's not gonna work because you know much better than me. Your dating's just not working until 719.
Okay, let's unpack this, Hatun. He has made error after error. I'm not going to say he's lying. I think he's just ignorant. I don't think he has done any of this homework. Listen, what degree does Adnan Rashid have?
No, just a
Does
moment.
Adnan have any academic degree?
Jay, that's not the point. Those missionaries are at speaker's corner. They've got the camera. They've been dealing with these manuscripts like since I know you. You've been talking about it. And this is not someone who never heard of it. He heard of it. He should know better. It's
Okay,
very
what he
easy to
does
get
do.
into the camera and lie. That's
This
wrong.
is what he does. This is why it's so exciting. He gets later on. He says, "Go up to Islamic Awareness website, and we have 100% of the Quran on the Islamic Awareness website."
That's lie.
No, it is a lie because it's not 100%.
Yeah,
They
it's
only
a
have
lie.
96%. They only have 90% of the Quran that they put on the Islamic Awareness website for the 1st century Hijrah. Look at the list. There are 63 Qurans, they say,
Manuscripts.
63 manuscripts they can point to get to this 96%. To get to 96%, they had to go all over the world, pick out all these different fragments. These are fragments, small little fragments. A little fragment here, a little fragment there, another fragment here. They have 63 listed there. Tell me if the 1572A is there.
No, it's not there.
Oh, wait a minute. Did he just say that it was there? See, you haven't done that video yet. He says this is part of those. This is on the Islamic Awareness website. There he's lied again.
Yeah, but
Absolute lie.
another thing is, the dates which that website put is just like very, very misleading, and they should know better that those dates are not correct. But
Okay, we have
that's
actually
different.
looked at every one of those manuscripts. Hatun, you don't know this yet, and no one else knows this, and I'm not ready to really divulge everything we know. Our team has already looked at every one of those 63 fragments.
Jay, I
That's
have
what they're
looked
claiming.
at them. Jay, I've got the dates of them. I have looked at them as well. But
Okay, what have you found? How many dates are from before 719?
I need to
that you
go.
can
I need to kind of put all the PowerPoints of that. I've got them in PowerPoints, but I don't want to get on them now because that's huge different topic. I'm happy to schedule them and go through them. All essentials people need to know is how many complete Quranic manuscripts we have from the time of Uthman J.
complete manuscripts we have from the time of Uthman?
Yes. Zero. How many complete Quranic manuscripts we have within the 1st century of Islam? That's until 719.
Zero.
Okay. That makes...
Remember last year, Hatun, we were on the ladder with Mansour. Remember, it was just about a year ago, May 26, 2019. We got on the ladder to introduce this book. We were there to introduce this book, not to talk about manuscripts. Remember Mansour Ahmad, who is one of the writers for the Islamic Awareness website, got on the ladder with us, and for half an hour, he tried to harangue us, saying that these are not variants, these are nothing more than scribal errors, blah, 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 blah. Then he says, he made an amazing statement in front of 20 cameras, where they recorded it all. He says, we can trace the textual history of the Quran all the way back to Uthman, all the way back to 650. Remember what you and I did? We turned on him. Remember that?
Yeah.
We said, are you saying this? Can you trace a manuscript textual history, this is a critical text all the way back to the time, I'm sorry, let's go this direction, all the way back to the 7th century, the mid 7th century. And he was quiet. He didn't say anything. So then we asked him again, okay, let's give you benefit of the doubt. Maybe you said something before you did. Maybe you spoke too quickly. How about for the 7th century, back to 699? Can you find a complete Quran? Since you're claiming it now, you can find a complete Quran, 114 surahs, all 114 surahs, one Quran from the 7th century itself. That means that one that also parallels what we have in our hand today. This right here, the Arabic, not the translation. I'm talking about the Arabic. Can you do that? He was quiet. Finally, he said, you're not listening to me, Jay, he said. He looked at you at Hatun as well, and he smirked, and he says, we can find 97% of the Quran by 719. Ooh, I loved it. And he says, go, and what he was talking about is the same site that Adnan has just talked about on Friday. He's going to the exact same article that you and I have been looking at. It's been up there for quite a few years. It has not changed. Look at those 63 fragments, and you will see we have looked at every one of those 63 fragments, and not one of them can we categorically say are from before 790. There are about 7 of them that you could probably guess. But the majority of them, 34 of them, no one has done any work with. So they have no idea what the date is. Half of them that they have up there, they've just put up there because they need this surah, or they need this ayah, or they need this word, or they need this phrase, or they need this verse to get up the 96% that they have in 719. But remember, we're not talking about 719. We're asking for 652. I want something that the Muslims claim they can produce by the time of Uthman. I want to go back to the 7th century. I've been saying this now for months, haven't I, Hatun? Tell me in the 7th century, what is this Uthmanic recension you're talking about? What is this Uthmanic text you're talking about? Where is it? And if you cannot find it, then shut up. Don't stop saying it. And for heaven's sakes, we're not going to call you liars. We're just going to say that you're either inept or you haven't done your homework. But you have no academic credibility. You have no intellectual hypotheticity. You're not even making sense because you're claiming the same thing you have been claiming. Remember, Adnan Rashid, when he and I did a debate way back in the early part of this century, many, many years ago, it's up on Fander Films, you can look. He said at that time we have 100,000 manuscripts from the time of Uthman. He claimed he even had one in his house that he owned. Can you remember that? And then by the time Dan Brubaker did his homework, and then by the time Atakulich and Ekmilladin came out with their findings in 2007, suddenly it was reduced down to 6. And that's what I went on the debate with Dr. Shabir Ali in 2014 there in Canada to confront him with these 6. And remember what Dr. Shabir Ali's response was at that time? Who cares? We don't really care. If you look at this set of numbers and you look at this set of verses, we get number 19. If you look at these words and these words, you get number 19, number 19, number 19. He spent 19 minutes wasting our time. Now, that was in 2014. I understand just this week he has now done a response to that debate. He has just put a response to that debate. He has claimed yesterday, that's on Sunday, this is 6 years too late. He's still arguing from 2014. We're 6 years beyond that. We've now looked at all the manuscripts. We now have them. You have the Husseini right there in your possession. You have them on one or two others, don't you, there in your office?
Yeah, I've got Husseini, Ali's Sana manuscripts, British Library one, Paris.
So you've got
Cairo.
the Paulus, you've got the Ma'il, you've got the Sana manuscript, and you've got also the Samarkand. Those are the 4 you've got.
Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, which are the other 3? I don't know the other 3. Goodness sakes, how do you get these manuscripts?
Tübingen, Cairo, like Cairo Husseini and other Cairo. And then I've got Topkapı, I've got British Museum, I've got Sana, Sana one which attributes to the Ali, I've got Husseini, yeah.
Now, Hatun, look at the camera and tell me, do you have a doctorate in this area?
I'm Christian, Jay. No, I'm using those things in the intention rescuing Muslims from Islam, and Lord Jesus Christ is using material to rescue them from Islam. But so
now, let me just, before you go on, do you think Adnan Rashid has one of those manuscripts in his possession?
I don't know.
Obviously, he hasn't by the things he said just on Friday. On Friday, he's making claims that he cannot support.
He
and
might
you cannot
have it,
do
he
this
just
in
maybe
academia
didn't
anymore.
read it. He might have it, he just maybe doesn't read it. You know, they're Arabic.
Okay, let me ask you this. Has any Muslim done a study of every one of these 6 major manuscripts, of which you have 6 of them, right, or 7 of them? Has anybody done a study of looking at the razm? That means the skeletal text, one with another.
Not at this stage.
Guess what we're doing? That's exactly what we're doing. We're in the process of doing that right now. It's just a matter of time where we're going to be now come and tell the whole world exactly what the razm is. We're not talking about the diacritical marks. We're not talking about the vowelization. We're not talking about the dhamma, the kasra, and the fatha. We're not talking about any of those. We're going to the 7th century and the 8th century and the 9th century. And we're looking at the oldest manuscripts, not originals. None of them are original. We're looking at the oldest manuscripts and we're comparing the razm with each other. And we're not going to tell the world yet because we dare not tell the world. When this has been done, we will be the first in the world to ever do this. And we're going to hammer the Quran because once you see what we are now finding, you're never going to be able to, Adnan Rashid will never be able to say what he just said on Friday. There is no one Quran from the 7th century. There is no Quran from the time of Uthman. There is no complete Quran from the 7th century. There is no complete Quran from the 8th century. And the Quran that we're asking for, the Quran that we have today, this Quran, the one that here, the razm, I'm not talking about the diacritical marks. I'm talking about the skeletal text. Where was that first created? Where was that first written down in 114 surahs in one complete text? That's what we're asking for. We're going to find the answer to that. Wait on, hold on. We're going to show you the date for that. When that happens, no longer will any Muslim be able to say that there is one Quran. No longer will any Muslim be able to say that the Quran is unchanged. No longer will any Muslim be able to say that from the time of Muhammad, from the time of Uthman, the Quran is exactly the same today and is exactly the same as in heaven. Because they don't just say it's the time from Uthman. They have to go to chapter 85, verse 22, which says that this Quran is eternal, that this Quran has always existed. They have to go to chapter 15, verse 9, which says that God protects this Quran. And we're going to show you that this God doesn't do a thing with this book. This has nothing to do with God. This had nothing to do with Muhammad. This had nothing to do with Uthman. This had nothing to do with any of these earlier 7th century individuals. We're going to show you that it comes much, much later. But hold on, I can't say it. I'm not permitted to because we have yet to finish the research. But see, this is the research that Adnan should be doing. This is the research that Qadi should be doing. This is the research that Muhammad Hijab should be doing. This is the research that Shabir Ali should be doing. Why aren't they doing this research? This is their Quran. So why have they been making all these pronouncements without able at any point to back up what they're saying? We would never do that as Christians. Thank God we don't have this problem in Christianity. Thank God we know where our earliest manuscripts are. Thank God we even know where there are variants. Thank God we even tell the world where the variants are. We're very clear that in chapter 6 of Mark, verse 9 to 20, we put a line at the beginning and say, and warn the readers that these verses are not found in the earliest Greek manuscripts. We're very clear that in John chapter 7, verse 53 to John chapter 8, 11, that there's a line before and after to warn the reader because we are transparent, because the reader need to know. We would never make these claims if we could not support it. So I'm asking Adnan, and I'm asking Hijab, and I'm asking all of you Muslims who are out there, who are on the internet, please don't make claims that you cannot support, because we will hang you. We will hang you. And we won't call you liars and all these kind of stupidity. We will just say that either you're inept or you just haven't done your own research. Please do your research before you come and make these kind of claims publicly.
In that note, let me just go through the points once again for everyone to remember, and we will kind of finish from there. So we had a very quick look at the Muslim claims regarding the Bible. Still it's going on. Apparently by Muslims, Bible is corrupted. Remember, we do have more than enough manuscripts. We do have 5,856 Greek manuscripts today. We can know what it was in the beginning. That is more than enough. We do have the translations from early centuries, as well as we have the church fathers quotation confirms the Bible, which we are reading, as well as confirms the Bible, which Quran and Muhammad and Allah is fall in love. And then we looked at the claim by Dawa team regarding the Birmingham manuscripts as a whole Quran, that they are able to put it together, and it is also the Quran from the time of Muhammad. Simply was not the truth. Not even half of the truth or quarter of the truth. It wasn't truth at all. And then last claim was regarding the Cairo Husseini manuscripts, and sadly that was not true as well. And with that sad and broken heart, Jay, have you got last words?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I mean, you're talking about what we have in content. We have 5,300 Greek manuscripts. We have 10,000 Latin Vulgates.
5,856.
Thank you.
5,856.
5,856. We have the 10,000 Latin Vulgates. You add them all up, we also have another 9,000 in other languages, and those languages include 11 other languages. But when you look at all the translations, there's 19,000 different translations in 11 different languages. There's over 24,000 manuscripts that we have that we can get our hands on. They're not, we're very careful, they're not all complete. We're not saying they're all complete. But we do have complete ones that go back to the time of the 4th century. The Sinaiticus, the Alexandrinus, the Vaticanus, that is from the 4th and 5th century. That's 300 to 200 years before the Quran was even begun. So when Muslims say we've corrupted or changed it, what are they going to do with all the 5,008, whatever it is you say of the Greek manuscript, the 10,000 Latin Vulgates? They 9,000 in other languages, but 19,000 translations. On top of that, we have 86,000 quotations. 36,000 of them are before the 4th century. So how can they say it's been corrupted or changed? We have done our homework. We've preserved these texts. What have Muslims do? They have 6 manuscripts. Not one of them is complete. Not one of them is from the same century that the Quran supposedly was written. Not one of them agrees with each other completely, and not one of them agrees completely with the Quran we have in our hand today, especially now what we're finding out with this new research. So Muslims, be careful. We've done our homework. You have yet to do their homework. We would not make these kind of claims unless we could support it. Don't you make these claims unless you can support it. God bless you, Hatun, for all the work you do. Thank you so much for getting it back to the manuscript evidence, because this is the elephant in the room that no one's talked about. This is the elephant in the room that no one wanted to talk about. Muslims want to keep us on the 8th and 9th century, the late 8th and 9th century. They want us to talk about Qira'at, only the Qira'at. I really don't care so much about that. I want to talk about the manuscripts, and we were able to do that today. Thank you for introducing this. God bless you and the work you do. Continue to be encouraged by all the great, not only the comments you're getting, but a lot of people realize that unless we say what we are finding, unless we research what we're finding, people will not understand that this book has a huge amount of problems that we're just now finding out about. Everything that we've done today have already been done to the Bible. Everything that we've been looking at today, we talked about redacted criticism, we talked about source criticism today. That has already been done to the Bible. That was invented on the Bible. Now we're going and asking the same of the Quran. And while the Bible has been able to pass every test, the Quran has not. And so that's why I said it's a little odd and a little unruly for Adnan to go on and on and on by what he did. He needs to be careful. He's going to be called out.
And these sessions are going to continue because that video is 2 hours 26 minutes and with lots of mistakes. But here's the bottom line. We do have biblical manuscripts, more than enough. We do have translations of the Bible which we can check, more than enough to tell us what it is in the Bible. Bottom line is this. Bible is the love letter of Father to humanity. Bible is the love letter of God the Son to humanity. Bible is the love letter of God the Spirit to humanity. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. It's not about having the knowledge of it, but do you know heart of God is beating for you? Do you know Lord Jesus Christ gave himself for you? He gave his heart for you. That's what you get from the Bible. Until we see you next time, please, let Lord Jesus Christ silence you with his love. Let Holy Spirit continue to work in your life. And if you don't know Lord Jesus Christ yet, please repent until we see you next time. God bless you, Jay. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.